Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to Paradigm Shifters. And one of our favorite guests here is Linda Schurman. Linda, how are you?
Doing great in spite of the apocalypse.
Well, your Linda's a brilliant astrologer, and she's going to talk to us about the various phases and stages of the apocalypse according to astrology. And also, Linda has quite an acute sense of politics and the evolution of the species and so on. So I'm pretty eager to talk to you about what's up out there, Linda. And let's look at the astrological configurations. Are we seeing respite from some of the nasty stuff, or are we seeing an increase so that we go through something that's going to make us all wiser? What do you have to say?
I would say in response to that, it's all of the above.
There's
Uh,
no final thing or beginning thing.
it's all of the above. The we have several unbelievably significant astrological configurations, planetary positions. We have a Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries, which is considered the world point in astrology, the beginning of everything, the
Oh,
ending
okay.
of the beginning of everything. That configuration has not occurred for 16,000 years. We have Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. And Pluto was in Aquarius at the time of the American Revolution and the French Revolution. Uranus was in Gemini at the American Revolution, the Civil War, and World War II. And Uranus trining Pluto plus the sextile to Neptune, Saturn. This is a very rare configuration, and translated, it means that the old humanity, our institutions, our systems of belief, our way of being, our economies are coming to an end. And new economies, new systems of belief, and new ways of being are emerging on planet Earth. There's going to be some young people coming up now. Aries is a young sign. It's full of energy and vitality. Unfortunately, it is also a warlike sign. So right now there is an opportunity for humanity to make an evolutionary leap to a higher level of consciousness, to stop living in the reptilian portion of the brain and
Great.
light up the higher portions of the brain, which we have known the human potential exists in, and create a new world, a new civilization. Now, part of this are the amazing technological advances we have been making. AI, of course, the internet before that. AI is an amplification of the internet, cell phones, and my favorite topic is nuclear fusion, as you know, that this is the splitting of the hydrogen atom. There are chambers or sites throughout the world that are making tremendous progress with nuclear fusion, which will supply infinite amounts of energy everywhere that a site is established. It can be hooked up to the present infrastructure, and it means the end of the age of fossil fuel
No
altogether.
oil, right?
Yes, no more oil, gas, coal, which is warming the planet. So another thing I did want to bring up, the Pluto and Aquarius transit. The last time that was there, remember the American Revolution where Washington's troops were freezing to death?
Hmm.
Where that is often introduces a mini ice age cycle. And there's indications that that could be. Yet we have a global warming cycle because of the amount of fossil fuel that is pumped in, as we know, into the atmosphere. So we have a combination cycle, a mini ice age combined with global warming. And it's interesting at the poles, the North Pole, there's melting at half of the glaciers there, and the other half are actually rebuilding themselves with ice. So
Wow.
we have the most interesting thing going on here. Two,
But wait a sec, doesn't it sound like humanity right now? Everything's kind of split,
yes,
doing.
it's indicative.
Mhm.
We are in a tremendous period. We're becoming aware at how ill-equipped the human race is to handle the themes and the issues that are coming up in our lives collectively. There's some very intelligent people out there. There's some young people out there that have ideals of restoring peace and harmony to humanity.
Mhm.
And there are people who are just bearing down even harder on being angry and furious and willing to go to war. So there's the clash of systems of belief. There is a clash of, I call it good and evil, really, that are going on at this time. I personally, because of the choice I'm making to feel this way, am optimistic about the outcome of all this. That if we can get through the next several years with these planets, then we may be on the right road. But when you say are these awful things going to happen? Are these great things are going to happen? I would say yes to both.
To
They're
both.
going to be happening simultaneously,
So
in
it's
my
part of
view.
our evolution to go through, make those choices. I know that's always true, except there's something intense about it right now. Do you think evolution is pushing on
Oh,
humanity?
we've come to a place where we cannot fool around anymore. You
Okay.
either step forward and you want a world in which humans work harmoniously with one another, accepting each other's differences, coming together in less of a democratic process, but more of a democratic process where all humans are taken into consideration, where we get off of having to have dictators, kings, monarchs. Uh, we have recently, with Uranus in Taurus, which is going through its last period between now and April 26th in Taurus. The last time it was there was the rise of the Third Reich in
Oh my
Germany.
goodness.
And this, we can say the rise of the Fourth Reich here in the United States has been occurring under this transit, ironically. And we're,
And does that have to carry on until the planets change? You know what I mean? Does it have to be that Trump is going to take it that far?
Trump will take it as far as he can. Trump is an extremely unstable person, mentally, physically. I do not think he's physically well. I've never felt that he was mentally balanced or well. And he could go in any direction. Usually, if people call his bluff, he'll back off.
Mhm.
But right now, he threatens world peace to attack for Greenland, and all the NATO alliance nations are now coming together and bringing troops over to Denmark and saying, no, you can't do this. Uh, I think he is steadily becoming weaker. One of the possible scenarios is that Trump could leave office due to health concerns this year because
Mhm.
his chart is very difficult right now. But the chart of J.D. Vance is very enhanced starting July 1st of this year when Jupiter goes into Leo. So there could be a transition from Trump to J.D. Vance during this time. I know because he is as
He's
hateful
he's a
as
gross,
Trump.
yeah.
Right. Uh,
So let me ask you this. What about consciousness? Do you think that human consciousness is being enhanced or driven further by these challenges all around the world? You know, instead of doing the prediction, I
I
mean,
think that's a
predict, but I
great
mean,
question, Veronica, because consciousness is everything, and people have more of a choice than they think they have
mhm.
about what kind of consciousness, what kind of world internally within yourself do you choose to inhabit. I have an exercise that I do at least once a day where I'm lying down and I'm in the white light and I have a whole group of blue angels which surround me. And those blue angels help me to heal. And I have a blue and white flame that I dance in to restore myself. And then the people I know who are ill and ailing, I send out those blue angels to them. And I have found that I've been living through every crisis and challenge in my own life so much better than expected because I am doing this every day and I have that visualization. I think if most people decide they want to be in the world of light, of
Mhm.
healing, of
Mhm.
wisdom, of understanding, whatever symbology you can relate to me, it's white and the blue and the purple. Many people have different colors that they relate to different things.
But it doesn't matter because they'll know the lifting that comes from that.
Exactly. If you and then in your life, you take every time something comes up, you take a deep breath and you relax and you restore that place. The decisions that you will make in your life will probably be better in decisions, enlightened decisions, and as things come up because the world is still in turmoil. The turmoil is not magically going away. It's how we relate to it. If we recognize it as the necessary turmoil for human evolution to take place, or we could say it's the kind of turmoil that makes humans go extinct. So if we realize it's extinction or evolution,
When I'm
and
looking at people inside, I'm seeing that the clashing and the all the astrological stuff going on, it really is pushing, for example, simplistically put, their chakras is pushing them to move in different ways and all of that. And I keep thinking, well, if we could be conscious of that, we could help the patterns of movement that are going on inside of people and help them out of all kinds of situations,
I
can't we?
absolutely agree.
Mhm.
There are methodologies, meditation on the chakras. There are, I think Buddhism is a great pathway. Buddhism says they're not actually a religion, they are a pathway. They are a series of practices to balance ourselves, to create optimum health, mind, body, and spirit. Whatever these things are that you do in your life. There's never been a greater need to have those daily practices than now because there you will be deciding who to vote for or what door to walk through or what job to take on or what invention to promote or what you need to think of being coming from a great place in your life to make those decisions instead of acting defensively and fighting
You can say, I'm
everything.
choosing to come from a great place in my life, can't you? Yeah.
They do. It's been my experience. I recently things have happened in my own life that I don't think I could have survived or gone through the way I had without that positioning. I call it a great positioning of your mind, body, and spirit
I love it.
in those. And we constantly stumble. We have to tolerate our stumbles. If we fall over, the side of the rug, or we're going to stumble because we that's how we learn in our lives. We're going to
Mhm.
take a wrong turn, but if we come from this place of light, we'll correct our course.
Mhm.
We've got to be able to tolerate our own mistakes and errors and painful decisions that sometimes we make to realize we are really already on this path, that we're on this path. And we can either say, I'm correcting my course as I go along, and I'm going to tolerate this. I'm not going to get into judgmentalism about it. I'm
But
just,
can I ask you a couple of questions, which is like the financial bases of the planet, is that going to evolve as well? It seems like
yes.
this is a simplistic kind of a question, but I'm going, wait a minute, the whole thing is like networked with dog eat dog, I get it, you don't, blah, blah, blah. Can we, will the planetary motions really give us the grace to move out of that clutching reality?
We can. Right now, just a few facts to throw out.
We like some facts,
1100,
just a few.
1100 families in United, all Americans own 80 to 90% of this country's wealth.
I
It's
know.
absolutely mind-boggling. We are
But how
run
did that happen? This is also
It
relevant.
happened over a period of, I'd say, about 50 years. It took to happen where monopolies, people merger and acquire each other, and people acquire more stock. And the cartel of transnational capitalists in the billionaire class, at the most, they may pay 8% tax on what they have. And so the other people, the majority of the people on the planet are either going under completely or down and out or into
They're
poverty.
picking up the tab,
They
is what they're
can't afford
doing.
health insurance. They can't afford a house. They can't. We're starting to recognize this in our lives. It's taken us long enough. But who's in charge of these big, and now the media mergers that are taking place, this thing with Warner and Netflix, and merging the media. What will we have in the media? We'll wind up with having two corporations that own everything in the media. And when you have this, we have three corporations that own all of the grocery chains, and it goes on and on.
But we can interrupt that, can we
We
not?
can change it, but we have to decide. The biggest power we have is voting, is
Mhm.
it's going, and it's really, really important that candidates for the presidency and other things represent that we're going to change this without a message that we're going to become communists way here on the left. No, we absolutely should have federal health care for all. We should
Yes.
have equal opportunities for people, affordable education and housing. That doesn't mean we're not capitalist. It doesn't mean we can't have entrepreneurial capitalism, because we can. Balance with social programs that keep
Yeah, but
people
it's like there's
healthy.
an intrinsic kind of rushing energy. It doesn't matter if it's about healthcare or about housing or whatever. There's this kind of rushing energy to get more of the profit. I'm going, that
Well,
tells
it's a
me that we
profit for
don't
these.
care. We don't care about one another. We just care about the profit, right?
Yeah, exactly. There is a mentality of the people who founded these corporations that are very visible. Look at Elon Musk, for
Oh,
instance.
yeah.
He is a he's a genius, but he's a crazy person simultaneously. There is nothing, all he did was chop things down in the government to keep the government from supplying us with necessities that cause the country to function. Same thing with Trump. They just don't want the government doing anything. They want to turn this over to these capitalist entities so that
Mhm.
a few people, a handful of people, own everything.
Or actually just run everything in the
And run, well, of
organization.
course, if you own everything, you will run everything. You will buy since the Citizens United decision
Oh,
in
that's a terrible decision.
2010 with the Supreme Court allowed infinite amounts of money to go into campaigns. You have both Democrats and Republicans have to coddle up to these transnational capitalists, hoping they will donate enough money for their campaigns. There were efforts made in earlier decades. Back in the 90s, the McCain-Feingold campaign finance reform bill. That
Mhm.
was a wonderful bill as it originally stood, which limited amounts of money that could go into campaigns and provided some government funding for people who didn't have a lot of money to get into a campaign and have to. Well, that was virtually watered down to the point they did pass it, but it was watered down. And then when Citizens United decision in the courts took place, that was gone completely. There is no, because when the Democrats and the Republicans, in order to run, they have to have a lot of money donated to their campaigns. And guess who donates all this money to
Oh, yeah.
further their own interests?
They're
The,
just saying you
the
want to
billionaire
buy this
class.
product of this
Right.
attitude. I just get so crazy about that. That's I don't know what we're going to do about it, but we need to look at it. We have to see it what
We
it is.
need to look at it head on, and there needs to be some young, courageous people who can get around it or beyond it. Uh, uh, I know everybody is talking about Mondami, the
Yeah, I
new
was going to
mayor
ask
of New
about that.
York
Yeah.
City. Well, he
Mhm.
was one of them. He somehow got around this, and he stands for what he calls democrat socialism, which doesn't rule out capitalism. This is the thing. People love to frame and use words that start creating dissension. Like
Mhm.
if you're on the left, you're a communist, you're going to get rid of all capitalism and destroy this. That's not true. There
Mhm.
needs to be a balance between entrepreneurial capitalism, non-monopolistic, and on the left programs that help people to have an equal opportunity to get there. If a person has a good education, he can create his own business successfully, or she can, or be a doctor or a nurse
Yeah, but they
successfully
cut back
without,
on education too, and
yeah,
that's
bankrupting themselves with college loans. That was another, back in 2000, another big move on the part of these big banks, which have these student loans that people are forever paying off after they are graduated. It goes on and on how the big banks and the big corporations have taken over, not just America, but the world at large. And
Mhm.
how is this going to change? It only changes with a great shift in consciousness. It changes when enough people are aware of this. We stopped supporting
Mhm.
really good public education. My generation, I'm 85 years old. I had a better education. I had political science and civics in the classroom. We had to study the Constitution and pass a Constitution test to get from our junior to senior year. This was in the post-war era when under Truman, Eisenhower, and we just absolutely refurbished this country. We built up public education. We created a
This is
coast to
after the
coast
war too.
highway system. We did things for the public and created a good economy. When you do things for citizens and the public, as a consequence, you're going to create a good economy with healthy businesses. One is not opposed to the other.
But
This
it's
is what
interesting because after the war, it started to go really well like that, and all of a sudden the McCarthy era came on.
Well, yeah, there was that, the McCarthy era, and thank God we got through that, the communist scare, and we this country is full of things of racist stuff. In the 60s, you had the civil rights revolution. In the 50s, you had the McCarthy era. There's always these conflicts. Now,
If
where do
there's
they
something that's exciting and change, they'll shoot the person.
Yeah, exactly. I think they come from
Fear.
people when things come up, if you're not well educated. Now, that doesn't mean programmed a certain way. That means educated in history,
And
in political
understanding.
science,
Hmm.
in the notion of democracy and what does it entail. When I was in junior high, we debated issues that were in the headlines that candidates were running about at that time. We were excited. The fact that we as citizens had this democracy after we got rid of the dictators, except for Russia and China. We got rid of these dictators and came around to what does it take for a democracy? It takes responsibility. It takes a good education. And people can debate. I remember decades ago where these presidential debates were decently conducted by the League of Women Voters.
And they're
People got
pretty
on the
interesting.
stage, they were civilized, they didn't beat each other up or throw verbal grenades at each
But
other.
hang on a second. I want to go back to the McCarthy era just to say what would convince the populace to go into that? What change astrologically happens? You see what I
Well,
mean?
there
I'm
were
going,
a
yeah.
series of things. I think the biggest, it was a long time coming, the transit of Uranus in Aries, but then the transit of Uranus in Taurus. creates a fear that if you do anything for anybody else, you're going to lose your place, you're going to lose your money, you're going to lose who you are. It
Okay.
creates a sense of Uranus being the public at large. You create a sense that you have to survive at the expense of somebody else if they're black or Hispanic or Muslim or Jewish or Catholic or whatever, the other that is different than you have to attack them, you have to eliminate them. That was
And if
Hitler's
we have
big
that
play.
kind of attitude, we're much more vulnerable to something that's going to be more really powerful and rude because you're already in a shrunken place, aren't you?
Yeah, you're vulnerable to cult leaders. Like
Yeah.
I feel that Donald Trump is a leader of a cult. That
Mhm.
30% that keeps polling in the United States is still for him and what he was doing. That's about 30% of this population belongs to the Trump cult. They
Eh,
believe he's going to save them or he's going to do, and all these other invaders, all these other people, all these other entities. He's going to protect you against them. He's going to kill them off or arrest them or send them, I think, Hitler's Nazi hordes down
mhm.
to arrest them or whatever. Remember, the
And
President Obama.
lies. It's so much lying. How do we get away with that, you know?
President Obama deported more people that were non-documented and here illegally than any president in recent history.
Oh, really?
Quietly, legally, lawfully, as they came across the border, he sent them back. He found out who was actually here illegally or who were part of and he quietly did that. And Trump is just jumping his forces on everybody.
So Obama didn't do it because he didn't want any people from different countries or different colored skin or anything.
He was a lawyer, and he said the rule of law plays here. If you want to come here, you need to go through the process and become a citizen or a documented worker legally.
Hmm.
And Trump is right about that. Trump is right about people being here illegally. But we need an effective system to make that happen. Our system needs to be organized so that people coming here who want to work, who love
But my
America, want to
understanding
be,
is it was organized.
it
It has
was
been.
better organized.
Mhm.
Ironically, the last person to be a part of that change was Ronald Reagan, who allowed people, the children of people who had immigrated over here, to be here legally. Reagan and Tip O'Neill, who was the head of the Congress at the time, worked together for that. The system has been broken for a long time in terms of immigration. We need to create a really good lawful system to have people come through and have their cases heard as to whether they genuinely should be here or not, and then
Mhm.
give them either a temporary work visa, a student visa, which we had to a degree. We had these legal visas, and then a pathway to citizenship going through a process. And that those
But
things,
that requires a cohesiveness, which I'm seeing that we're not really being very
all
cohesive.
what Trump has done is made people hate immigrants,
Mhm.
particularly of color, just hate. And ironically, he married two women who were immigrants from Eastern Europe.
I know it's interesting. I
Yeah.
want, but there's a whole lot to say about that. I also want to know what the astrological, what are the planets doing that we would face this crunch this way? Or can you read it that way?
Yes. Well, these issues that you brought out are exactly the issues we're going to be dealing with. I think we are going on the positive side. Inventions like AI and the refinement of AI and uh, CRISPR technology, biogenetic engineering is going to fix the
Fusion.
majority of illnesses.
Mhm.
Nuclear fusion will supply us with infinite amounts of energy for everyone all over the planet, wherever a site can be constructed and built. As I said, they're making tremendous progress with this. The ITER got over 20 minutes of ignition. China got, in their nuclear fusion plant, got 17 minutes. When you talk about minutes of ignition, this is on your way to permanent energy going in to the infrastructure and supplying electricity. Now,
So I hate to be boring, but can you tell me what astrological things would
yes,
prepare?
Pluto in Aquarius,
Mhm.
Uranus in Gemini,
Okay.
Neptune and Saturn in Leo, they're all energy producing, and Jupiter will go into Leo June 31st, June 30th of this year, and will be there for a year in Leo, which is the energy of the sun. And I
Mhm.
think that's when so much publicity is going to be coming out about these fusion sites. We have a bunch of them here in the US, Commonwealth, MIT in Massachusetts. We have Helion in Seattle, Washington, which has contracts with Microsoft. We have the big ITER chamber in France, which was the first thing of its kind years ago. It's taken decades. It's huge in order to get now where it's moving ahead. They're all over. There's in Britain, in Japan, there's fusion sites and the development of this, and the world and the country know almost nothing about it. It isn't being publicized, it's not being discussed. And I think that's going to be huge because with cryptocurrency combined with AI, those two things are burning up so much fossil fuel that within 8 to 10 years we'll run out. We won't
Hmm.
have any more fossil fuel. So something else has to happen. As
Well,
bad as
let me just put a sidebar here, which is our communications, our newsletter papers, and the lies and all of that stuff is accumulating more disinformation. So people don't actually understand a lot of times what the heck is going on. Does that make sense?
yes, well,
It's very
this is
confusing.
the problem. We do have a lot of options. We have people who are writing essays and doing podcasts like what we're doing and writing essays and everything. But there is like a break between a lot of people who don't look at those things, don't read. I have a lineup of of things here. PBS News, Fareed Zakaria on CNN every Sunday, twice a day. There are some really, really good places to go for news. And Trump eliminated the funding for PBS and NPR, and NPR
I know.
unfortunately went
Yeah.
down. They couldn't. Trump is trying to defund everything like this, but PBS is continuing because some rich people are donating a lot of money to their continuance. You get really excellent news. You get excellent specials on PBS. You get the wonderful Ken Burns
Mhm.
2 hour wonderful broadcast on the American Revolution. If you haven't seen it,
I haven't seen that yet, but
it's
you talked about, yeah.
fabulous. He got made famous by the one in the 1990s on the Civil War. That's how he started to become famous with his wonderful thing. People who don't know history will find out. And you can go sometimes to the History Channel or what I call the Story Channel that also brings out famous historic figures, times in history that were significant. We need to study history in order not to make the same mistakes. We,
Hmm.
and
But I want to go back into this thing about disinformation and people lying. That takes care of a lot of people who don't go past that. Do you know what I mean?
And they do they will go to something that if they dislike almost everybody else, anybody who is not a white supremacist, born again Christian, whatever, they're not going to look at anything else. It's going to inform them otherwise
Hmm.
because they're married to that. They have sold their souls to that particular
Well, I
devil.
think that's our responsibility somehow to straighten out. Not, not.
I don't know whether it is. My feeling is that it's everybody else that we need to focus on, the people who will listen to good
Mhm.
things and who value intellectual people with good backgrounds that are truth tellers, people who have the sensibility to to look at things. I don't think that 30% over there, they're going to have to make up their own minds, the people
Okay.
in that area.
That's good. That's a relief to
I've
put
tried
it
to
that way.
have even a conversation with people that it's like we're on different planets or speaking. One of us is speaking Swahili and the other one is speaking Martian.
It's true, isn't it? But it also amounts to the money thing. Who makes the most money doing this kind of thing? And that's how they do the misinformation. That's Murdoch and that sort of thing. It's just, it's all about money, isn't it?
It is bottom line. It is about, but you have, I like Fareed Zakaria on CNN. As I said, he just does an excellent job of bringing the themes and issues of our times up on Sundays. And PBS and certain specials that you'll see. I still like the New York Times and the Washington Post, even though they're owned by plutocrats, you know. And I like the Guardian Unlimited, which you can get online. Heather Cox
Richardson, I really do
Richardson.
love her.
Yes,
Yeah.
she is absolutely, she's a brilliant, brilliant person. And she writes essays all the time and has a website and does podcasts and various things. And I love Rachel Maddow, I have to confess. I'm an absolute groupie with Rachel Maddow. She is one of the most brilliant commentators today, and she's a young woman and she's in Aries. So she is going into a time when her presence is going to be even more important. That's on MS Now. And so
I want to say something about what we watched last night, which was it was supposed to be Rachel Maddow, but we decided that it's some sort of devised, it wasn't actually the true AI. That's what we decided
yeah,
it was. I don't know if you saw it, but it was talking about how Trump was at the end and he was going to be taken out and all that kind of stuff. Of course, we want to hear that, but it was really strange. And I could tell by her mouth that wasn't really her.
this
We have,
is a very
we have to
difficult.
pay
I did not watch that. This is a very difficult thing. Again, we don't
very.
when capitalism is unregulated and there are no standards set for telling the truth, which is what happened as internet and cell phones developed. There was in addition to no cybersecurity, which means people could hack in all the time and steal things. In addition to no cybersecurity, there were no standards. And now they're talking about standards for AI and standards, there have to be laws. This has to be regulated, that you have to be held to telling the truth. And even if it's a slightly different view of a situation, if that's the case, you have to give the opposite viewpoint of that. There's got to be standards and
Mhm.
regulations. And regulations are the enemy of giant capitalistic cartels. They don't want to be
Yeah.
regulated by anything. Anything that you can do, including pornography, all the bad stuff, none of it is regulated to any valuable extent, to any
So
meaningful
it's up to
extent.
you to have the sense in yourself
Yeah,
about
you yourself, if you are an educated person and make it your business to really have a good education and keep learning as you go along in life, you will have the capacity and the discernment to know. But these fake things, that's another issue because AI can create a fake image, a fake voice, a fake
and the energy
everything.
is really different.
Yeah, and as I said, somebody has to dig in there
Hmm.
and decide, is this the case? I've had things come up with me on my Facebook page. Is that really that person? And a lot of people now don't believe that anything is real. They've
Yeah.
gotten to the point they're so jaded that anything that goes online, they think, oh, well, that's
And that's
fake.
dangerous in itself
And
when
that's
people are
even
that
more
cynical.
dangerous because
Yeah.
and that's what has happened in this country because both the Democrats and the Republicans caved in to this big, giant economic financial cartel of banksters and transnational corporations because they caved in. Both parties have had to raise money for their campaigns. So who do they get the money? Again, it goes back to Citizens United. Anybody, they contact the billionaires, and the
Yeah.
billionaires say to a political party, you can't say this and you can't do that if that's against our interests. And
Hmm.
it's really that simple that
Hmm.
you've got to do something about that. You've got to do something about campaign finance reform. And you've got to do something about revealing and holding people accountable for lying.
Is there any planetary action going to radiate down on us that we will become more honest, or we will be able
I
to,
honestly
you know,
think this is going to be because Neptune, which is often the media, people's imagination and fantasy, fantasy is conjuncting Saturn, which is the harsh reality. They're coming together on Valentine's Day this year. And
hmm.
this is a truly a wake-up call for all of us to get rid of all the cultish fantasies and crazy stuff and look at the on the ground realities about our lives, how our economies are run, how our
The denial and
education
stuff.
systems, how
Hmm.
all the systems really, what is real here and what needs to happen. I'm optimistic. I think people are going to move in that direction.
I think we're trying. I think people are trying to, yeah. But I love hearing that you're saying, well, there's some configurations that are going to really boot that up.
I really do. And I think that more and more young people need to come forward. A lot of people in the last election, it wasn't so much that people voted for Trump, is that they didn't vote for Harris. A lot of young men who just don't think a woman could ever be president,
Mhm.
particularly of minority groups, and people that weren't excited, and they just didn't vote. In other words, Trump got elected because a lot of people would would actually he would have lost the election if the normal group for the Democrats had voted, and many of them just didn't vote. So this is what we had.
And why didn't they? Because they were so
They just
disappointed.
didn't like Kamala Harris that much, and a lot of the men said, "I can't vote for a woman president. I just don't feel it." And when they're polled, that's exactly what they said, that
It
they
makes me
just didn't think.
sort of sad. I go, oh my God, so
With the
many
rise
countries
of
have women.
women, the
Yeah,
rise of women over the past decades in this
crisis
country and
zone.
around the world, it's fantastic to see this. Women
Yeah,
are going into positions of world governance and they're going to college or get, we know this. And instead of the men saying, this is great, we now have full partners. What is happening is that the women are surpassing us, so we have to put them down somehow. We
yeah,
can't allow
that's
that to
funny.
happen.
And then a lot of women are making quite a bit of money too. That should make some of the guys a little
Women
more
are
relaxed.
increasing they're all the way around. Women, once we got the supports that we needed, the education that we needed, women, we should look at men and women intrinsically as equals, not disparities between one.
But it's interesting, Linda. We've already said how expensive education has gotten and how desperate we are desperate. If we're going to evolve and grow the country, people have to be educated, right?
That's right.
So somewhere along in the mix of the male female thing, I'm going, oy vey, it's like a
Well,
little
one
bit of a
thing,
juggernaut.
it's true that boys and girls develop, the brain and the nervous system develops differently.
It
And they're
sure does.
beginning to realize that it's unfair a lot of times to boys and young men because the part of the brain that responds the best to structured learning isn't fully developed. So now there are, and this is what needs to be fixed in our education system. We're
Mhm.
we're we're going to deal with that. The kids that need more physical exercise, the ones that need a different pathway to learning. But we've got to adjust to, and Uranus in Gemini is going to do that for us because it
Oh,
rules
goody. All right.
education. We
I
just
have a
as
Uranus in Gemini myself.
yes, you were of that generation
Mhm.
where Uranus was transiting Gemini. And as you were growing up, the education system just transformed in this country. And I think we're going to do it again. but
Mhm.
everybody's on their cell phones, on their screens, and we have to find a way of children learning and educating not just online. I think to an extent we need to go back to books. We need to go back to more of a physical, local experience with our lives.
You
And
have
let's,
talks, lectures, people
right,
talking to you, you
yeah,
talking to
less reliant on all this technology. It's wonderful on the one hand, but it's not being used as wondrously as we would like.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I do believe that kids need to be get together physically with each other more. There needs to be more humanistic forces at work here,
Mhm.
and people going back to being friends and not everything just online.
I'm always fascinated by the fact if you're talking to someone in person, you get a whole lot of language that's coming through the vibrations between you,
Yes.
and that's the stuff that kids should learn about too. I mean, not to make it bad for them, but exciting for them.
Absolutely. Let's see each other in person. Let's go back to being friends and pals and playing ball with each other on the streets and having neighborhoods
Yeah,
where uh,
where you go out and play.
exactly. I want to see people come together as human beings in a loving way, in a transformative way, in a learned way. That's the kind of world I want to see. And I think painful as this transition is. I'm really optimistic we're going to make it to the other side of this.
And being me, I keep saying, nurturing is our greatest human power.
It
So
is.
just the idea of what we're talking about is nurturing the brains, nurturing the society, nurturing the trees, whatever it is.
Yes, if we put our money, our minds, and our hearts into helping each other rather
Mhm.
than competing with each other uh,
We
there's
could be
no
amazing.
end to what we could do.
I
There's
know, isn't
no
that
end to
wonderful?
what we could do.
We only
Yes.
have a few minutes left, so do you want to give us some suggestions about what to look for astrologically over the next little while?
It's going to be a tough road that lies ahead of us. There
You.
is no doubt in the world of politics, in the economy. The biggest thing is we need to come out of our coma. We need to wake up and be aware and step up to the plate. We need to get together and form in neighborhoods and political parties, get together, have dialogues, have discussions with each other instead of just hating each other. Let's
Mhm.
try loving each other. Let's try even just if you can't liking each other and having
Like that.
personal get-togethers, personal friendships, discussing the issues of our day and
Mhm.
saying, what can we as a nation, as a human species, what can we do to make ourselves better and greater?
And instead of trying to be right all the time, we need to say, what can we grow? What can we learn from each other?
Yeah, because there's ongoing learning,
Mhm.
development, and growth. That it is a process, not a product.
Yeah, I love it. Gee, I really appreciate your being here, Linda. And
My
do you want to
pleasure.
tell anybody how to be in touch with you? They'll be on my flyer as well.
Thank you. And it's a delight being on your show, Veronica, as always.
It's a delight for me too, and listeners as well. So thank you for tuning in, everyone, and thank you for coming in, Linda.
And Happy New Year to all.